Okay, ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No.
Yes. So am I. I used to believe in God. Well, I still do believe in God. I believe in God, and mercy, and all that. The dead are happier dead. They don't miss much here, poor devils.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. We can stay up late, swapping manly stories, and in the morning, I'm making waffles.
Hey everyone, welcome back to No Intermissions, the double feature podcast where we pair the unpairable and link the unlinkable. Two unlikely movies are picked at complete random, and at the end of every back-to-back discussion, no matter how hard it may be, my guest and myself will find the connecting thematic tissue, whether it be from genre, aesthetic, motive, or style. As always, I'm your host, Jack Siddle, and last time you guys would have heard from me, would have when I paired my boy Ethan on from Twitter when we paired sort of the grimy, seedy, swampy vistas of Wild Things and paired it with the bodybuilder mythos of xenophobic cartoon characters in Batman v Superman. But as always, with a new episode, I'm bringing on a new double feature with a new lovely guest. You can find this gentleman has one of the best podcasts in the game, in my personal opinion. You can find him on where you can find all good podcasts on the Santi Time podcast. It's Santi.
Hey.
How we going, man?
Hey, it's me, Santi. How's it going?
How we been? What's happening?
Been doing great, Jack. Happy to be here.
I'm happy you're here. I'm happy that we've found the time to get you on. This is like when I first started this podcast, I'm like, I know Santi's got to come on and want it like in the first 10 episodes. That's got to happen. And I'm excited to talk these two movies with you. But what's been going on?
It's been going, man.
Yeah.
The time came back after a month-long break because I'm still in school, still in the university, been on the grind with final papers and all that. So it's been hectic.
Under
But
the pump at the moment.
Happy to get back on the Santi Time grind since that summer's almost here. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hell yeah, man. We're in
Let's talk about the third man and SHREK.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, let's sort of announce the two movies we're talking about. But yeah, that's it. We're talking so what two movies are we discussing today, Santi?
Third man and SHREK. Like I just said.
There we go.
Third man and SHREK.
That's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. There's no time wasting here. Santi gets to the point. We love to see it. So, as you just heard, we're talking The Third Man from 1949 and pairing it with SHREK from 2001. But fuck it, man. I mean, no time to waste. Should we just get straight into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into Carol Reed's The Third Man.
You heard it here first.
Is Mr. Martins engaged on a new book?
Yes. It's a murder story. It's based on fact. It's called The Third Man.
So The Third Man is the 1949 film noir that stars Joseph Cotton, Ilda Valley, Orson Welles, and Trevor Howard. Of course, is directed by Carol Reed. So, The Third Man, the kickoff of the episode. The Third Man, obviously, the first noir we're doing on the pod, which is a movie that was a first-time watch for me, but I believe, Mr. Santi over here, this was a rewatch. So, what was your first impressions of the Third Man?
Well, so I first watched The Third Man on the Criterion channel. I have a subscription to it.
Oh,
And
okay, yeah, perfect.
you have, I don't know in Australia that you have it, but they have a lot of great collections of movies. And this month they have a collection of 1999 movies that I can't wait to get into.
Oh shit!
And they have another one on classic movies from Columbia, since that Columbia Pictures is 100 years old now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm also excited to get into that. So yeah, anyway, I think The Third Man was about to leave the platform. So I had to get that. So I had to get that movie like out of the way just to like watch it, just to like cross a movie off the watch list. And you know, and like I really liked The Third Man, you know, like I gave it like a 4.5, you know,
Mhm.
like for now, like for now at first, I didn't think that it was like, you know, a masterpiece or anything. Like it was like a near perfect like noir classic
Mhm.
that had Orson Welles, who had really good like limited screen time at the end. And then like when I watched again and I have the context of like and you have the context and you have the context of Orson Welles in the movie, it's like it's a better watch because like you have that dramatic irony perspective of like what's gonna happen, you know.
Right.
So
Oh yeah. No, Orson Welles is like fantastic in it, obviously, and like this is just one of those sort of like I've really in the recent years sort of started to gravitate towards like sort of the neo noir is one of my favorite genres, just because of like, and this like The Third Man. Good God, this like really doubles down on all those aesthetics that you'd love to see in a noir. You've got sort of the smoky alleyways, you've got, you know, shady characters and hats just staring at each other with like no dialogue. You got like sort of the romantic aspect of this, which sort of takes a back seat somewhat, um, which is more replaced with sort of the romanticism of sort of hearing, you know, unreliable information from third parties and sort of like morphing into something more of like a fabricated reality, which is like sort of the main sort of drive of the movie, I guess you could say. Um, but yeah, God, unbelievable.
yeah, unbelievable movie from like what'd you say the year was? 1949?
1949. Yeah, so this was like sort of in the
That's 5
absolute.
years. That's 5 years after uh after Citizen Kane, which is
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, this was like in
Because
the.
like at that point, Orson was already famous for Citizen Kane.
Yes, this was like absolutely in that perfect small storm of peak noir when all the noirs were happening, like all the great ones, like as you said, Citizen Kane and like Kiss Me Deadly and Double Indemnity and all those sort of classics, and sort of the Orson Welles popularity too, because this was absolute at his peak too.
Yeah, and it also like kind of makes you think that it's a Orson Welles movie because like you got the Dutch angles and you
Mm,
have and you have the movie and you have like the movie being marketed as like an Orson Welles movie when
yeah,
really he only like appears at the end.
yeah, and
Like
you're like, where's Orson Welles the entire time? Because I obviously going
exactly.
into The Third Man, because this was the first time watch for me, as I said, and the only sort of thing I knew about it was just the poster, and I knew Orson Welles was in it, and like you're like 40 minutes into it, because this is a fairly short movie. It just runs over like 100 minutes, I think, and you're like 40 minutes in, you're like, Orson Welles hasn't showed up yet. I wonder what's going on there. And then when he does,
Yeah.
like that, we will get into it. But when that review, that really amazing reveal does happen, you go, "Oh, that's fucking genius."
Yeah. It's
Uh,
like I said this in my so like we could I doubt that this is gonna be like a kind of a spoiler for what I'm about to
oh, go
say. If
for
that
it. Yeah, yeah, no spoilers.
so
Yeah,
like
just go for it.
for my second watch of The Third Man, I basically put this is the best like your friend actually sucks movie ever made.
That's the thesis there. That's exactly what the movie is. Um, Sort of peeling back, you know, information that you made, like just seeking out information that by the end of it you didn't want to know.
Yeah,
People you thought you know, um, it is completely all as a like a fabricated reality of this of our character, Holly, who is just an impulse of confusion. His performance is so good because he just wanders around like, as I said, like just as an impulse of confusion and second guessing everything, because every single person he talks to is feeding him different information about his friend Harry Lime, which I guess we should just sort of briefly touch on the plot for anyone unaware. So this sort of author, Holly, comes to this town to seek out his friend for a job, Mr. Harry Lime. And as Holly arrives, he is met with the news that his friend had died just prior, and sort of the whole movie is him on a an investigation of how he died, and sort of getting drip fed information throughout the runtime of sort of you know, why he died, and sort of the undercover belly aspects of sort of, he thought he knew his friend, but was up to some pretty shady, horrible stuff. Possibly got murdered. And the whole movie is just sort of like leading you, because you're going along with the movie with Holly going, okay, so this is the information now that we're given. Okay, we got to take this on board. And then about 5 minutes later, you're told something completely different.
Yeah, exactly. And like, and just when you think that, like, because like as you said before, that like Holly thinks that like Harry was killed, was hit by a car and like died, when really like what sorry, so like when Harry, like, when you think that like Harry died from getting hit by the car, and that he was like and that he was carried over to like a certain spot, and there's a third man, when in actuality the third man was Orson Welles the
Yeah,
entire
yeah, that's
yeah.
that's the
And
point I forgot to bring up when discussing the plot. Is that sort of the whole movie is Holly trying to reconcile with the fact that, you know, it was seen with two men carrying his friend's Harry Lime's body across the street, and then as the movie goes on, more people are telling him, oh no, there was a third man, and then that whole like adds a layer to the whole sort of mystery of going, okay, who the fuck was this third man? Hence the title of the movie. And then as the movie progresses throughout its runtime, you find out something much more horrifying. Um, when in fact, like, sort of, you wish you could just sort of reach through the screen and grab Holly by the shoulders, and like people telling him at the start of the movie, like, you should probably just get out now. And completely agree with that sort of notion where he's in too deep now, and it sort of leads to
yeah,
something much more ugly towards the end.
yeah, exactly. And like this has a great setting too, like taking place during like post-war Vienna,
Yeah.
where like you have like where tensions between like Austria and Germany are at an all-time high, given like uh, like given like given what's happening or what's going to happen. Like they allude to like they allude they allude to the fact that like they allude to the fact that Vienna like is under a microscope, because like the last time that like Austrians like interfered with Germany, they started a war or whatever.
Right.
So I really like that type of like, and I really like that type of like character. Uh, no, not exactly a character setting, but like almost like the setting feels like a character. Like it's empty. There's barely people, because like they stay in their because they stay in their homes. They don't like to like go out at night or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So, and also like I think like how the script was written by Graham Greene is like
Mm-hmm.
really good.
Oh,
So
masterful.
yeah.
Completely utilizes every sort of like little lie and deceit that happens, and that just perfectly trails off into the to a big larger thing. And as you said, like, sort of the setting in the post-war Vienna, and they on how they really utilize that. Like, sort of the whole final set piece chase is like perfectly intertwined with sort of the setting of like people ducking and weaving between like cars that have been bombed, and buildings that have just, and like just bricks lying over the street. It all looks great. And that's sort of that perfectly like inky imagery of like all this neo-noir, you know, shadows and overcast streets, and like sort of the wet concrete. It all looks great. It's just a fantastic looking movie too.
It is. It is. Yeah, like even for a movie like from 1950, it looks great,
Yeah,
honestly.
a lot of great overcast like close-ups of people's faces, just like shocked and horror and just like horribly confused. That whole, I always think back to like, I only watched this movie for the first time the other day in preparation for this, and the image that have just like been ingrained in my memory of like, at one point Holly goes to ask a character he met at the start, about sort of
The
the
Porter. Yeah,
the porter about, yeah,
the
that's it.
German neighbor guy. Yeah.
That's it. The truth about sort of Harry's murder, and as Holly gets there, it turns out the porter has been murdered, and you just get all these bystanders outside the porter's house, just like all close-ups of just the horrified faces, and they're all like overcast with shadows, and it's just like horrifying.
Mhm.
It's great.
Yeah, and you have like Gotcha. And you have that like tension further when when Holly's being followed by these like random mysterious figures who actually who actually who actually like look who actually like work for Harry later on as you've as you learn, and then like just when you think that like and just when you think that like and just when you think that like the and just when you think that the police like have it wrong about Harry, like they were actually right that like Harry is not really a good guy. And like in most and like in most like in most movies I love, and the kind of movies I love like basically portray cops as the bad guys, which I actually like, since a cab or whatever. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's like and it's perfectly sort of portrayed in this aspect of time too, in this country. And it's like sort of more, all the cops in this are sort of more roguish, and they're not sort of, no one's clean in this movie either. Everyone's got sort of like, deceitful intentions about them. Even our main character like is just sort of going through the plot bit by bit, just getting more and more confused, just completely disillusioned by the whole thing. He gets so thrown off so easily. So he's not like your typical hero type. He's just like just a everyday author guy just being thrown into this completely absurd situation, which is really great.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. And like I like the scene where he's like drunk at a bar, and like
Yeah, yeah.
and he comes to like fight the police officer guy, which I who in which like I like the actor who plays him. And like
Trevor Howard, I think.
yeah, Trevor Howard, who I really like in Brief Encounter. If you've ever seen it, Brief Encounter
I
is
haven't yet. No, that's another noir that I've got to check out.
it is like one of the best romance movies ever
Really?
made. It is a tragic love story that you gotta watch. It's so
Damn.
good.
See, this, I feel like before to get back to your point quickly, if I can just intersect something really quick. I think The Third Man is like one of those where it's like a perfect jumping off point for a lot of noirs. It's like a
Oh,
good
definitely. Yeah.
gateway movie because it's like, yeah. But sorry, continue with your point that you were saying before about Trevor Howard and Holly drunk at the bar.
No, I was gonna say, like, I really like the chemistry with like Joseph Cotton
Yeah.
and Howard. You have these like two well-known like golden age actors just like sharing scenes together. And of course you have Joseph and of course again Orson Welles appearing at the end, thinking that you're supposed to root against it.
Hmm.
Thinking that you're supposed to root for Orson Welles when really when really he's a bad guy. It's actually it reminds you that like Holly is like the main character and not Harry Lime. Harry Lime sucks. Remember that. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, that's it. But and it's like all these sort of conflicting sort of emotions and relationships that are sort of like breaking down in this incredibly short runtime, but all met with like sort of this dark, moody, expressionistic imagery of like, um, you know, plays happening, and as we mentioned, like back streets, and the another image that I just love in this movie that I was really drawn to, not only sort of the Dutch angles, but sort of when Holly is about to sort of come in contact with Harry again, and Harry's sort of standing in that really dark alleyway across the street with the cat at his feet, and it's like it's sort of really off-putting and creepy because at first, like, if you've never seen this movie and this is the first time watch, you're like, okay, it's like really sort of off-putting and eerie of just like these feet standing at this like pitch black doorway. It's fantastic, and the whole movie's like that too. It never like sort of lets up on that entire off-putting mood.
Oh, oh yeah, definitely. And he makes the joke, and like he says like a memorable, and like a Joseph Cotton says a memorable line about ghosts that I can't really remember right
Yeah,
now. I thought it was like really clever.
yeah,
Like the thing about film noirs is that the thing about film noirs is that a movie like that is great when you have snarky lines like that, because
yes.
like you knew that these writers cooked.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, but yeah, it's like sort of like met straight off the bat. with like sort of that off-putting mood, because you're met with sort of one of the first sort of aspects that is touched on in the entire movie within like the first like 3 seconds is like the aspect of the black market in this post-war Vienna, and you get like sort of these rotting corpses laying in like these streets and rivers, and you know Vienna's been split into like 4 parts, I believe, because it's like the Americans, the British, the
Yeah, and I
Russians, and the
think
French.
like, and yeah, like not to cut you off, but I think that was when like, and I think that was when the Berlin Wall was being built, because like
Right,
this was
yeah.
1950, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
like this
yeah.
was the beginning of the Cold War.
Yeah, that's
So
it. And it's sort of it's a perfect sort of time capsule in that whole period where everything is just sort of like down in the dumps and depressing.
mhm.
Yeah.
Where
It's
yeah, yeah, like these families are separated, and the only way to like, and the only way to like get behind the wall is to have a passport, and they don't let and they don't let you in because you're not, because like you're a communist, like, oh, like being like, oh, you have communist ideals, go back the way you came, like that's bullshit, right?
right.
Like it was such a shitty time period back then, like.
Yeah, and it like completely just like romanticizes all of that, because you get sort of so many great shots of just like these like lonely streets of just bystanders wandering. I love that bit where I forgot the character's name off the top of my head, but the love interest. Um
Oh, Anna Schmidt.
Anna, that's it. So when like
Anna,
Holly
yeah.
goes to see Hannah, and I believe he's talking to her about like who could this third man be, and she's like it pretty much could be anyone, and you get to and it just snaps to this great shot of Holly looking out the window and just like these like sad like just slowly walked people just wandering these like empty like cold foggy streets. Oh, I'm fucking obsessed with how this movie looks.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it does. Like it does really look cool. And like you also think that like Holly and Anna like might get together, because like a common trope in film noir is that the main character like gets with the femme fatale, or like the main character like gets with the love interest or whatever. But like
Absolutely.
it honestly doesn't really happen here, you know? So
No,
like
and
Anna doesn't really like end up with either of these men. So
No, and if I can, yeah, that's a very good point to bring up, because I've always like felt when I watched this relationship blossoming between these two was probably doomed to begin with, because it's birthed from something so sort of hideous and ugly of like, you know, not only finding out that your best friend died, who he was dating this lady, but sort of finding out the hideous sort of underbelly backstory that your friend, you know, helped contribute to this black market in Vienna, and it's like sort of a relationship birthing from that is just completely just doomed to begin with.
yeah. I also like how Orson says cuckoo clock, you know?
That's the line delivery of the entire movie. Yes, I completely forgot about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, like I just remember him like saying cuckoo clock, and I was like, oh, okay, that's clever.
Yeah.
Okay. Good on you,
Yes.
Orson.
Absolutely. And sort of to tie back to the relationship aspect between Anna and Holly, it's like a just a to jump forward just a little bit, it is just a completely heartbreaking final shot.
Oh, oh my God, yeah. So like oh yeah, when Harry like gets to the sewer grate, he thinks he's out, he thinks that he can actually escape, but he gets shot, and like, man,
Yeah, and they
so
just look
good.
at each other. But even past that, when sort of Holly is sort of reconciling with Anna to see if there could be something between them after all this like
Oh
this
yeah,
hideous event went down, and she just walks past him and just completely just ignores his existence. You're like, fuck, it's crazy. And that's how that's just how the movie ends. And you're like, God damn.
If I could compare another movie real quick, it kind of
Mhm.
reminds me of uh of that scene of that scene in The Departed, where Matt Damon asks Vera Farmiga as she's walking past him, what about the baby? You know, and she's a
Yeah,
bit
yeah, yeah. Well, that's a very apt sort of comparison, because I believe I was doing some background research on this movie, and just so happens that Scorsese is like obsessed with this movie. So
oh,
it very well could be true
yeah,
that
of
he
course he
pulled
is. Of
from
course he
yeah.
Yeah, like of course he would be, yeah, of course he would like something like The Third Man, you know, like
Yeah.
it's,
So it could be very well possible that he was pulling aspects from the Third Man to put in like something like The Departed, which would be very cool.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely, yeah.
And that's a good point to bring up too, is that this would be a very sort of inspirational movie to pull from, because there are a lot of classic noir aspects in this, and sort of, and not only sort of the sort of themes of the movie and sort of the plot points, but also just how it looks, because you got, as you've mentioned, Santi, the great Dutch angles used in this movie. I've actually got it playing on in the background right now, so I'm just watching it as I'm talking to you, but it's like
Cool.
every like sort of, you know, fifth frame or whatever it may be is just like slightly off kilter, so it's like, so, and it just adds the off-putting nature of the entire thing.
Definitely, yeah. Definitely, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. The big
They're bad,
the big set
but like,
piece at the end is really great, between like, I love
yeah.
the you know, incorporating sort of, as we mentioned, the post-war sort of landscapes, and you get that great shot of like you know, Harry ducking and weaving through these different like sewer lines, and hearing all these different voices from cops coming through like all these different tunnels, and it's like really, it's like something almost straight out of like a horror movie. It gets to a point where it's so sort of off-putting like that.
Yeah. Oh, oh yeah, definitely. Like the sewer sequence is like definitely a memorable part
Hmm.
of this movie, because like it's inevitable that this guy can't leave. It like the place is surrounded by cops. He can't get out. Like
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
And it's incorporated too earlier, where sort of how Harry can get away so quick, because he's like got all these sort of underground sort of tunnels that he transports himself through, which is really clever. So it's a good way. It's a good sort of plot detail of how he can get around so quick and be so like deceiving, and not to mention like even the whole sort of sequence between Holly and Harry on the Ferris wheel is just like just perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing like two former friends catching up and and
Finding
and
out one of them is a complete piece
with
of
the
shit.
knowledge that your friend sucked. Like
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
uh,
Um, yeah, I was gonna say, should we probably start pivoting towards final thoughts on the third man? So like any sort
yeah.
of any plot points we left out, Sandy, that you want to bring up, or any lines of dialogue, that's the time to usually, or just pretty much a continuation of the discussion if we've left anything out, but pretty much also wrapping up.
Yeah. The Third Man is a classic film noir that everybody should watch. It's a memorable title for a reason. Like 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 it's how it perfectly juxtaposes like moviegoers like expectations back then, thinking that you were watching an Orson Welles movie when really you're not. This is a movie where Orson Welles is the bad guy, and it's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I love the incorporation too of like sort of Joseph Cotton and Orson Welles, just relationship like in the context out of the movie too, because they've been in a lot of movies together too. Like I believe, you know, obviously The Third Man and Citizen
Citizen
Kane, I
Kane.
believe too. Touch of
Yeah.
Evil as well, which I think Orson Welles just directed. Which I mean is another one like
Kane, of course, yeah, he
I have to
directed
check
Citizen
that out.
Kane. Like,
Yeah, F for Fake, which is another one I have to check out. Like
I
I
watched that for
myself,
fake for a film class, actually.
is it good?
It's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I myself am like embarrassed that I'm like saying that I haven't seen these yet. So I really got to get on my my Orson Welles game.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, so I mean like as we mentioned, like this is like a perfect sort of jumping off like gateway movie on two different um for different noirs in the genre. Like so many great lines in this thing, like the sort of you're born to be murdered, which might be my favorite line in the entire movie, which is just
Oh yeah.
so good. The whole sort of you know, Ferris wheel sequence where it's just like a perfect acting showcase between these two. Um, really off-putting stuff, and Orson Welles pretty much just like when they're at the height of the Ferris wheel, looking down at all these bystanders, and he just sees them as just like numbers, and he's like, "What do you reckon if like if these dots on the floor here just like stop moving?"
Oh
Just
yeah.
really good stuff. And you're like, Jesus, what is wrong with this guy?
Because like because like that's a because like when a character listen, when a character says that he only like sees dots instead of people, that's how you know that this guy is evil. Like
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love the aspect too of like towards the end of the movie where they're sort of catching on planning on catching Harry there. Anna herself is so like lost up in this whole fabricated situation where she herself is like calling Holly Harry, and it's like all like you're like, oh, this is so good. You're all getting like lost up in it with the characters.
Yeah. Yeah, like there's an interesting parallel between those characters where like Holly and Harry, like, sound the same, and
Mm.
that they were lifelong friends, and when he realizes that he's actually not a good person, it befuddles him. It breaks him, and this is gonna hit so much for like people who have had bad falling outs with like with lifelong friends, in a way, like this falls into the like friends falling out genre, like alongside Banshees of Inisherin
Mm-hmm.
and like other ones that I'm not
Heat.
and other ones that I can't really think of right now. Like
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's like I think this is up there with one of the leading sort of this is the one of the fallout feel bad movies of the century. This is one of them. It's got to be. It's so good. Yeah, but I mean, so that's probably gonna do it with us on The Third Man from 1949, and we're gonna be right back. We're gonna talk about Shrek from 2001.
Princess, where are you? It's very spooky in here. I ain't playing no games.
Well, at least we know where the princess is. But where's the
DreamWorks Pictures invites you to a land of fairy tales.
Hey! Oh, no. Dead girl, off the table!
Where are we supposed to put her? The bed's taken.
what?
Where an unlikely hero
You definitely need some Tic Tacs or something, because your breath stinks!
rescues a fair princess
You didn't slay the dragon?
It's on my to-do list.
All right, we are back and we are talking Shrek, the 2001 American animated fantasy comedy film, loosely based on the 1990s children's picture book of the same name by William Steig. We thought The Third Man had a cast that holds no merit to what we got in store here. We've got Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy,
viewers know what we're talking about here. Like,
Cameron
listen,
D-
sorry.
No, you're right. Cameron Diaz and John Lithgow, and is directed by Andrew Adamson and Vicky Jensen. Shrek. End of review. Shrek. That's it. That's all we need. That's all you need. And
Shrek is love. Shrek is life.
yeah, oh my god, you've just unlocked a memory there. Shrek is one of those fucking movies where if I think about it longer than 10 seconds, I think I lose my mind. What is Shrek? What is Shrek? Actually, let me start here. What is Shrek to Santi? Santi, please give me your relationship with Shrek, because was this a rewatch classic for you growing up?
Man, this is gonna be a trip down a memory lane, man. Like,
Yeah.
Shrek has been my life since I was 4 years old, man.
Yeah.
Like I remember popping the DVD into into the DVD of my parents' house, just playing Shrek 2 constantly. I was so obsessed with it. I watched it at home, I watched it at school with friends,
Mhm.
and that was basically my first introduction to Shrek, because Shrek 2 is like, if you ask me, I think Shrek 2 is like the perfect gateway into anything Shrek. Like I never watched the first movie as a very young lad, because Shrek 2 was just so perfect to me that I thought I didn't need anything else. So like I watched it in length, like I want to say years later, when I was like 11 years old, when it aired on Cartoon Network or some shit, and I really loved it, and I really loved it, like a DreamWorks classic as it is, like it's like, I don't know, like
I mean, yeah, that's it. How do you describe it?
it is iconic. it's a cultural reset, man. Like everybody knows
Right.
Shrek. He's one of the most recognizable characters. Like if you hear his voice, that's Shrek. If you see like like if you see Donkey, that's from like if you see Donkey, that's from Shrek. You see Puss in Boots, that's Shrek. You know, it is the most recognizable brand like in the public consciousness of the of the cultural zeitgeist. Like it has completely taken over people's lives in any way, shape, or form through memes, through analysis videos, through uh through 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 Halloween costumes, through
Yeah.
computer games,
He's
etc.,
everywhere.
etc.
Even through like a lot of people will argue that Shrek, well, the first two mainly is like how to franchise because a lot of people just flat out prefer the second one.
Yeah. By the way, question I have for you.
Yes.
Did you watch Shrek Forever After in theaters when you were 10 years old?
Um, I very well could have. I can't. I definitely have seen that once. But I cannot remember for the life of me if that was in theaters or if that was home because 2010. I'm gonna assume that I probably did.
Yeah, because like I think Forever After is like also a great movie. Even I could argue that it's probably just as great. Like I could argue that it's probably closer to like a perfect like to I would say that it's probably like a worthy follow-up to Shrek 2. Yes, I'm completely ignoring that Shrek the Third exists. Like I hate that movie so
What
much.
even happens in that one? I can't remember what. Does he
Okay,
have kids
Shrek
in
the
that one?
Third.
Does he have
Okay,
Shrek
okay,
babies?
check. Shrek the Third
Santi's about to lay
involved.
down the law.
So Shrek the Third involved, involved like basically the king is dead, so Shrek has to like go find the heir too far away for some reason. Prince Charming is back. He's the main bad guy.
Oh, okay.
And it's just like it's this whole dumb plot involving fairy tale villains taking over, like something involving like, hey, you don't have to hey, like just because you're considered a villain doesn't mean you have to be one. This type of like the
Oh, okay.
type of like baby brained
Tries to have a
like
message in it.
nonsense lesson
Yeah.
that you take when you're young. It's so bad. It's not fun. Like I don't think it's funny. It's not funny. The story is so weak. Like it is everything that Shrek 2 is not, and it's everything that Shrek Forever After wished that it could.
Okay. And just quickly remind me before we jump into the first one, what happens in the
Sure.
fourth one?
Fourth one involves like
Because
Shrek
you're a big
signing a
fan of the fourth one, aren't you?
again. So
You do love the fourth one.
I do really like the fourth one. I really like that it's a really good cap off to Shrek's story because like he realizes that yeah, because like he realizes that like he took his life for granted when when he built a life with Fiona and his kids and Donkey and like everybody and all of his friends that he met and like he wanted to like go back to this like he wanted to like be the way it was or whatever. So so like he signs a contract with Rumpelstiltskin, like therefore assigning signing like his entire livelihood, like far away like entire existence over to him and all that stuff.
Oh,
And he
okay.
and he spends the movie trying to like take it back. And it's a really cool adventure movie. And it's also like so funny. And yeah, I'm glad that I watched it. I watched it twice actually. I watched it once with my mom, sister, and sibling,
Mhm.
and one of my friends, and and I saw it again for somebody's birthday or something. So
Mhm. Yeah, right.
yeah,
See, I like I said before, like when I was watching this movie in preparation for this, I'm like, obviously, it's Shrek. It's been talked about to death. It's been memed about to death, as
yeah,
you brought up recently. But it really is one of those like, what the fuck is this movie? Because it is really one of those strange. There is so much. Just I if there's a word further beyond bizarre in terms of creative choices, like I don't really understand who this movie was made for, to be
Are you
completely
talking
honest.
about the adult jokes of the movie, Jack?
Or just like the overarching whole nature of the thing. Like,
Jack, do you think Farquaad was compensating for something?
yeah, that is a
Yeah?
great joke. I do love that joke. There are a lot of, it's been some time since I've seen this movie, and on this rewatch, there are a lot of like fantastic hidden adult humor in this thing. I'm like, that's amazing.
I-
That's obviously been like one of the standouts, and that's a great one. But like, just like it it speaks volumes that we just talked about The Third Man, which is a movie about characters doing reprehensible damage to each other and like physically and psychologically, but I'm struggling to talk about fucking Shrek. So I wouldn't even know where to begin with Shrek. Like you
Okay,
yourself.
so it
Yeah.
starts like this, right? So like it starts off with like a typical like introduction with like a storybook with like the movie starting with the storybook, once upon a time, yada yada yada, like how a Disney movie should, right? And that's what's perfect about it, which I'll get into later.
Mhm.
So like and Shrek just laughs off a bit like ha ha ha, like that's never gonna happen.
Right.
What a load of outhouse flush, and then you get the iconic needle drop of All Star with somebody. Like,
Yeah, right. Well, that's a good
perfect
point to bring up.
introduction
Is that
to an
yeah?
animated
No, it
comedy.
really is a perfect introduction because not only does it meets that's the first sort of exceeding expectations of Shrek going like that's it and like rips the page. Not only rips the page out, but quite literally like wipes his ass with fairy tales. Like there is no doubt
Yep.
to use those toilet. He's literally wiping his ass with fairy tales before the big needle drop happens. So I thought that was fucking brilliant. That's a thing I've only just picked up on this rewatch. I'm like, that is so clever. But like it's such a weird one because it is a movie with so many. I don't want to say IPs because I think that's like a cheap sort of get out, but there are like characters like Pinocchio and the gingerbread, like characters we know growing up, right, in fairy tales.
If you
But
ask me, I think that's the best. I think that's one of the best versions of Pinocchio. Screw the Disney version. Like that's my Pinocchio, the
that's
DreamWorks
Pinocchio.
Pinocchio.
I do love that Pinocchio in this movie is referenced as like a possessed doll, which is fantastic. Like everyone
I'm a puppet. I'm a real boy.
yeah. Yeah, it's so good. But it's weird to have like a movie surrounding this many like things like this things but it's like it's centered around like this fucking atrociously ugly ogre and he's like donkey friend. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like if like I said, if I think about it more than like 10 seconds, my brain just goes like, this is like a really like for whatever reason. I don't like I love Shrek. I'm not and it's what I'm
Right,
about
yeah.
to say sounds like I'm shitting on it. But for whatever reason, this like movie, and not only this movie, this entire series is just like beloved by like millions. I'm like, how? How did any of this work? It's so
That's
weird to me.
Yeah, like that's just because that it was like a product of like 2000s animation. Like this was during a time where these guys like didn't want to work at Disney anymore, so they thought, hey, like
Right.
we're gonna make whatever the fuck we want. We're gonna we're gonna make our own studio. We're gonna talk with Steven Spielberg and start our own animated company, you know? So like and also like people say that like Shrek is like the first DreamWorks movie when that's not true. It's actually when that's not really true. Like like one of the first movies is The Prince of Egypt or was it Ants? Like I don't know
I
what
think
came
it
first.
might have been Ants, which is the movie
Yeah.
I genuinely love Ants.
Yeah. I mean, I like Ants. Like part of it, like I think Ants is solid. Like part of me and and of course like the big elephant in the room being that Woody Allen like voices the main character and all like the animation's a bit choppy, but I like it for what it is.
Right.
And of course you have The Prince of Egypt, which I think is like the best DreamWorks animated movie ever made. I don't think anybody will like ever make a Bible story quite like that ever again.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I
I
love The
think
Prince of Egypt so
yeah,
much.
I've yet to check out the Prince of Egypt. Like a lot of the DreamWorks stuff to me is like,
Jack,
I know,
Jack,
I
you've never
know.
seen the Prince of Egypt?
No, I haven't. I know, and that was a big one, sort of growing up too, of people talking, like kids our age talking about that one. Um, but yeah, I think the aspect of like the choppy animation bleeds a bit over to this. I think this is a bit like sort of in terms of the animation quality, it is a bit cleaner than Ants. But I think this still is a pretty fucking ugly looking movie. When it's not, I will say
Yeah,
that with an
yeah,
asterisk. I think a lot of this movie is completely atrocious, but I think there are some gorgeous shots in it.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
such a
Like
weird one to
I
me.
saw a tweet where like I saw a tweet where you like talked about the landscapes of Shrek and how they look like pretty like beautiful and empty, and which like yeah, like that's one of the good parts about this movie. Yeah.
There's a lot of really, it's sort of every sort of couple scenes there'll be a really gorgeous establishing shot of where our characters are going to adventure to next, and you're like, that is a genuinely like great shot. Like if I can just pull one off the top of my head here, like when Shrek and Donkey pre-rescuing Princess Fiona, they're walking towards the tower, and you get that great circling clouds going over the town. It's all like volcanic and apocalyptic. It looks great. And you're like, why the fuck does a movie look this good? And it's like about like an ogre. It's like really early DreamWorks stuff. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
This whole movie
Yeah,
is a
and that's
fucking
just like
anomaly
and that
too.
was just basically their attempt at like and making like CG animation, because like obviously they didn't want to like copy what Pixar was doing. They just wanted to like attempt to like make a CG animated movie, but make it completely different. Like don't make it like not to make it like not to make a movie like marketed towards like not to make a movie for kids, but have it marketed towards kids, but like have it but to like have the movie like be for everybody. Like you add in like a talking animal that kids will love, and you add in the adult jokes that older audiences can love, if that makes sense, like
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're totally right in saying that, like, DreamWorks were trying to do stray away a bit something, uh, you know, uh, more in a different creative direction than Pixar. But like, I've always seen DreamWorks. I know there are probably like, you have to forget, I'm not completely brushed up on all my DreamWorks knowledge, but I've always seen Pixar as, I mean, DreamWorks, sorry, as like sort of the lesser Pixar because they've always been like uglier. Even though there are I'm sure, like as you mentioned, movies like Prince of Egypt and stuff like that, there are probably some genuinely like just like good movies in there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, and like another like and of course like we could talk about how the comedy like works in it. And of course like and of course like Mike Myers as Shrek, like pretty iconic vocal performance. Like he's both so fun. Like his like rude mannerisms are so like funny to me. They've always been so funny. Like again, as I've said before, his voice is so iconic to me. Like it's like like it's recognizable even that like people like start to like intimidate him, and of
Oh, it's
course you
definitely
have
an
Eddie
iconic
Murphy
performance.
as the
Yeah,
yeah, and of course you have Eddie Murphy as Donkey
right.
who completely steals the show. You have like Donkey voicing so so here's an interesting fact about donkeys, right?
Hmm.
So the reason that like donkey like even like become the reason that donkey like even like befriends Shrek in the first place is because that donkeys like have an attachment to humans. Like they see humans as a way for like they see humans as a way for like attachment. And and I think like that's what makes Shrek really interesting is that it taps into like the real life aspect of how donkeys actually are. So like you could tell that these animators like did their research a bit there. So
Yeah, that definitely taps into sort of the old school analog filmmaking style of something like Bambi, where, when they were making something like Bambi years and years and years ago, they would get actual animals in to sort of, get the animation right on how these animals would move around and like interact with each other. So that's definitely sort of, carried on to something like this with Shrek when they were doing, yeah, as you just said, like something with Donkey. But I know I don't have to, but if anyone is unaware, I should probably just quickly run down the quick synopsis of Shrek. So anyone, I know, like I said, I know I shouldn't have to, but Shrek is about sort of this lonesome recluse ogre who is sort of has met acceptance where he's just happy by himself living in his swamp, and is sort of bombarded with residents from all these different fairy tales, you know, taking up residence in his swamp, and it is up to him to go to this odyssey of adventure, and you know, he finds along different characters along the way to get back his swamp, and in doing so has to rescue one Princess Fiona, as met with a promise of this evil sort of tyrant, Lord Farquaad, played brilliantly by
Yeah.
John Lithgow, which is fantastic. And so yeah, Shrek, and
I recently watched John Lithgow in Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and I always think to myself, man, like this movie's actually good. Like,
yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's sort of like, it's at the same time, it's a very simple, just sort of, I guess you could say, road trip movie of Shrek and Donkey, and along the way Fiona go on this sort of odyssey of getting to know each other, and learning depthful sort of characteristics about each other. Yeah, it's simple stuff. Of course, it's a kids movie. Like, there's no going around that. But as we mentioned, there is some fantastic sort of, you know, hidden adult humor in there too.
yeah. And if I were to, and of course, like if I were to pick my favorite joke in the movie, I think it's definitely like the compensating like bit there with with Farquaad Sour, because like it is perfectly genius at having that bit go over like completely go over people's heads, being like, oh, like what does he mean by that? You're like, oh, oh, oh.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's definitely like, it's one of those.
Show it to me. Show,
Uh,
show, show it to me. Show me the princess.
exactly. Yeah, really, there's really funny wordplay in it. Sort of like, you know, Lord Farquaad is just a complete creep of just like trying to
Yeah.
find a wife, and you know, he gets some, John Lithgow gets some really good sort of dialogue scenes where he's, you know, talking, he's just completely vulgar, talking down to Shrek, and
He wishes that he would be the short king that he claims to be.
yes, exactly, and his intentions get sort of more fleshed out and kind of disgusting towards the end, towards the final sort of action set piece, which is really fun.
You know, you should say that he comes in short supply.
yeah, exactly. I do love, quickly, just a little side note, I do, while I'm thinking about Farquaad, I love sort of the design of his whole kingdom, on how sort of, it just looks like a strip shopping mall, because there's like barely anything inside when there's no people around. It's all sort of
No,
very
yes, the thing about it is that Shrek is like has really like smart commentary on capitalism in a sense, because in a way, listen, Farquaad's kingdom is supposed to like satirize Disneyland, right? With the whole
right.
with that whole musical number of welcome to Duloc. It's a
Yeah.
first round, da, 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 da. Of course, like the place is empty, and and like and this is a complete opposite of Disneyland, where like this strip mall, as you say, is like empty. There's nobody around, which is like weird, because you know, everybody's at the tournament, and
Yeah.
the and all that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It utilizes some really fun location work. Like, I love the look of the castle that Fiona's in, with the dragon, and you know, you sort of get the cracked sort of concrete floors when you can see the lava seeping through, and it all looks great. It's all like really sort of moody and atmospheric, which I really liked. And I'm like, this is like, that's what I mean. Like, I genuinely think like this is a pretty fucking hideous looking movie, but there's some stuff in here I'm like, that looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing about and And yeah, and I love a movie that has like a moody volcano scene, you know.
Oh,
It's
you're always gonna have a
why
moody
I love
castle.
Revenge of the Sith, guys, you know.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You gotta have some moody lava sequence scene in there. And when I should reiterate, when I say like hideous looking, I do mean I know I probably shouldn't be, even bringing it up, but like it's not the movie's fault that the animation is sort of this dated, I guess you could say.
Yeah, yeah, which is why Shrek 2 looks better and is better.
Yeah, so that's actually a point I want to bring up because you prefer Shrek 2, is that correct?
I mean, yeah, it's what I mean, yeah, it's what most people prefer, you know. And
I think I prefer the first
I've
one.
met several, and I've met some people who like the first Shrek more, which is like, you know, that's understandable. But Shrek 2, man, like it's literally the perfect sequel, you know, like it is up there with Spider-Man 2 as one of the best sequels ever made. Like, come on.
I do understand the love around Shrek 2, but I think I prefer the first one and just sort of its simplicity. There's I think 2 for me has a little bit too much fat on it.
What do you mean? What do
Like
you mean?
I think it gets bogged down in its own sort of like for me, I really prefer the sort of simplistic like A to B narrative of we've got to rescue this person, got to get it back. That means it's gonna get us to this destination here. End of movie. 2, for some reason, I feel like it gets bogged down in a lot of different sort of um complications with relationships and I think it gets a bit too cutesy. I could very well be like talking out of my ass because I'm talking about Shrek 2, but like I know that's the consensus because like a lot of people do prefer 2, and I do like 2. But for me, I think just personally from my taste, I prefer sort of the simple narrative that this has.
Okay, why I love Shrek 2 is that
Yes.
it perfectly expands the Shrek universe. With Far Far Away, you have a great villain like Fairy Godmother, in which like she like basically orchestrated like in which she basically orchestrated Fiona's curse, which lets her which which leads her to like being sent away to the castle to the and you have that whole like meet the parents like and you have that whole like meet the parents like inspiration, not meet the parents, but like guess who's coming home to dinner aspect where like Shrek meets like Fiona's like human parents who are the king and queen, and then
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and of course you have the Jennifer Saunders cover of I Need a Hero, which leads to like one of the best third acts of all time. Donkey becoming like a stud horse. Puss in Freaking Boots, voiced by my guy, Antonio Banderas.
He is
Like
very good on that.
and of course Prince Charming being like a great side character villain who's like pretty funny. But and fun fact, I have like the Shrek 2 uh opening Prince Charming lines like memorized in my head. Like I can recite
Oh,
that shit
really?
word. And 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 yeah, and of course having two comedy legends like Julie Andrews and John Cleese playing the king and queen is pretty genius to me.
Oh yeah, John Cleese is like legitimately fantastic in
I
as
yeah. Yeah, 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 he's so good. Oh, it's fine, darling. I don't suppose they eat they are young.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I do think too, sort of, the animation gets a bit more polished up, and it's just generally like
Oh,
better to
this
look
not gonna
at.
get any worse. Oh,
Right. Yeah.
oh, I'm fine, darling. Just the old crusade moon. I'm just gonna go outside and stretch for a bit.
Yeah, exactly. But for some, I don't know, I'm attracted to more of like the weird ugliness of the first one. I don't know if it's like just the
Yeah, that's
the
just
weird.
yeah, that's just a you preference, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, it's just like the harshness of the weird animation, or like just like the scene where we get a whole scene dedicated to Shrek dedicating himself and like relating himself to onions. I'm like, this is such a fucking
yeah.
odd movie.
Ogres are like
Yeah,
onions.
yeah.
Like onions have layers, ogres have layers. And that's like a really good lesson that I've kind of lived by. It's that we have layers. Like even like the worst, like and it's that we have layers. Like the type of person, like the type of people that we are have layers, and this is and have layers, and we are more than what we seem. And like Shrek, like and Shrek is like is like this ugly and disgusting ogre to like a lot of people. That's why like they're like afraid of him, when really like he's more than just an ogre. Like 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 he can be kind when he wants to be. He could be like a funny and uplifting guy when he needs to be, but when he's like at the swamp by himself, he's better off alone, because like as he said in the movie, they judge me right before they know me.
Right.
That's why he's
That
better
is a
off
really
alone.
good scene actually, where he sort of just like completely deconstructs his own sort of, his life basically, and like why he is the way he is.
Mhm.
And that's what I mean. That's just a genuinely like fantastic looking frame as well of Donkey and Shrek just like looking at the moon together, and it's just
Yeah.
generally like nice. I'm like, this is why, like, it's weird that this movie suddenly in like weird sudden burst just gets gorgeous.
Yeah.
And not even like the soundtrack, as we mentioned, which we will touch on in a minute, of the incredible soundtrack, but just the score of the movie is just like
Mhm.
nice sounding.
Okay, I would argue that Shrek 2 has better songs, but that's just me. But yeah,
Yeah, what type of songs are in? Because I Need a Hero, obviously, as you previously touched on. But what else is
yeah.
in? What
Oh,
else is in
oh,
too?
there was the
Funky
um
Town,
there was that cover version of David Bowie's
of course.
Changes.
Yep.
There was uh there was everyone say just gotta
Yeah,
let go, that song.
Funky
And you also
Town is in
have
there.
Funky Town.
Yeah.
You and also you have and also you have Donkey and Pussy's cover of Living La Vida Loca,
Yeah.
with and of course like if you have the Shrek 2 DVD, it has it basically has a satirized like spoof sequence of American Idol, and Simon Cowell makes like a cameo appearance. I'm not joking.
Are you serious?
No, 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 no. Dude, I'm not kidding. Look it up.
See, that's what I mean. Like these Shrek movies,
It's
like
on
the
YouTube.
first two in particular, are so of their time.
Yeah. And it also has like a post-credit sequence of like of Donkey's like hybrid like donkey dragon like donkey dragon children showing like showing up, because like if you remember because if you remember back in Shrek 2, that like Donkey says like I don't know if I want to like, because like I don't know if I want he says like I don't know if I want to go home with Dragon. She's been all moody lately, which implies that like I thought that which implies that like Donkey's dragon wife is like pregnant. She's going through mood swings. Like
Right. Yeah, yeah. And that's a really that's a really fun aspect of this first one, is like the reveal that it's like, "Oh, you're a girl dragon." Like I
yeah,
love that. That's really fun. And she's like trying to hit on him, and he's like, he's like, "Oh, I got to go. Like I'm in the middle of this adventure." It's like really fun.
Jack, help, Jack.
What big white teeth you have. And then, it reveals the dragon's got lashes. You're like, that's just like a fun reveal.
Mhm.
It's like a good, like, that's what I mean when we talked about like just the movies constantly exceeding expectations of like, classic characters, of like, the dragon that they've got to slay, but it ends up being attracted to one of their heroes, and like it's so great.
Mhm. Yeah, so good. And and I'll also say that like Cameron Diaz is really good as Fiona. That was my first like introduction to this actress. It's because of
Hmm.
the franchise. It's how I
Hmm.
got introduced to like most of the cast here.
Oh
Because
yeah,
like
100%.
so, so here's an interesting aspect here. I grew up, so like how I knew Antonio Banderas was because of Shrek 2 and Puss in Boots.
Hmm.
My parents know Antonio Banderas from the Pedro Almodovar movies that he appeared in.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
yeah.
basically, my parents like knowingly raised me on Antonio Banderas before, like basically intended to raise me on Antonio Banderas because they knew that I would like this guy.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
oh yeah,
you know,
100%. It's a good mix of like, sort of the older, sort of a blend of older age and modern age genre actors of that time. As we mentioned, got like John Lithgow, who was like just like hit after hit. Like he played like, his villains in Brian De Palma movies, and he's just playing the comically over the top
yeah,
villain in this.
blowout.
And Blowout, of course, and Raising Cain and that sort of thing. And he's just like playing just the absolute smug asshole of Lord Farquaad, who's just a complete piece of shit. But yeah, it's like sort of, I don't know, like I think what helps this a lot too is the runtime. It's like a perfect in and out 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
see, that's what I mean. Like 2 is the same length, I believe, but just feels more, it feels longer to me. I'm not sure why. Maybe because there's more going on in 2.
okay.
Um,
Okay, I will argue that Shrek 2 is perfectly paced. Like
mm,
what's when you get to when Shrek, Donkey, and Puss get to that, like potion factory and they escape and Shrek drinks the potion. Like that's when like the movie like moves quick for me, you know?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I think 2 sort of utilizes a lot of sort of because I think the animators had so much fun sort of doing the action sequencing in this first one, which comes few and far between, but when it happens it's like really fun and dynamic, and I think that in 2 they really utilize that more. um
Yeah, definitely.
but yeah, it's just so interesting to me that this sort of bizarre mix mash of different tonally stuff happening in this one just became such an icon thing and became like the face of DreamWorks for the longest time.
Yeah.
And countless, well, not count, but quite like just quite a few spin-offs span from this too. You got those Puss in Boots movies, and
Yeah. Did you watch The Last
I
Wish?
haven't seen that yet, but I've heard like nothing but good things.
The Last Wish is amazing.
See, that's the one where it's sort of like it's very sort of Spider-Verse animated. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one?
And that's what I
Yeah.
like about it. The Spider-Verse animation is like really cool and it fits well and it really does fit that style.
Yeah, I've seen a few scenes from that second Puss in Boots movie, and I'm like, wow, they like I was kind of taken back on how gorgeous it looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, met with sort of the very bare bones sort of camera work in sort of the Shrek movies, where it's just sort of very point and shoot stuff, where there
Mhm.
isn't a whole lot of flashy stuff going on in terms of camera styles or movements. Like there are some really, like, as we mentioned, just genuinely like good shots in this. Like just a genuinely like just good shot is when Shrek realizes there's a dragon. It's like got a great pull in zoom where you see the tower in the background, and it's all good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And and of course you have the tournament scene with the song "Reputation" for Joan Jett.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
pretty
yeah,
iconic scene.
yeah.
I like how dirty it looks. I like that I like that Shrek like does these like WWE moves and all like ugh
Yeah,
so good.
utilizes a different sort of stuff in it. You got that massive barrel rolling around in the background, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
pulling wrestling moves fit to that song. It's all great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then it even like like sort of morphs into more of a you know an understanding sort of narrative with love and being lonely, because as it turns out, this princess that they say from the Tower, Princess Fiona, ends up being an ogre too, sort of met with this curse, which is like an interesting sort of
Yeah,
layer
like
to the plot.
if you were to watch Shrek 2001 for like the first time,
Yeah.
right? Like picture this. It's 2001, you're watching it for the first time and like you're thinking to yourself like, "Oh, like Fiona, like, oh, like Fiona likes to go to bed early before the sunset. I wonder why." And then when it's like nighttime and when Donkey like visits her, like Fiona is a completely different person. Like she's an ogre. Like which
Yeah.
is
Oh yeah, that's it. It just adds like another fun layer to the plot, which is like, oh, you're like, okay, now we're dealing with like this sort of thing, and obviously it builds up to, because Lord Farquaad, the whole reason Shrek is sent to go get her is because Lord Farquaad had made a promise to Shrek, you go get me this wife, and I will, get your swamp back to no more kooky fairy tale residents living in there anymore. And as you find that fun sort of layer to the plot of Fiona Bean and Ogie, like, okay, well, we know there's weddings coming up, so I wonder how that's going to incorporate with that and how these characters are going to interact with it. And it's all just sort of very ties together well at the end.
Yeah, and like Shrek learns that, yeah, and also like Shrek learns that he was like a that 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 he was selfish and that he didn't like mean to like take that deal with Farquaad to like to like get those like creatures out of that swamp. So he realizes that he invites them to the wedding. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great.
it's which furthers my point that Shrek 2 has an amazing opening scene with with the uh with the honeymoon sequence with Accidentally in Love, Counting Crows, all-time great love song in
Oh,
my
does that
opinion.
open that movie?
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like Prince Charming, like showing up to the castle, like finding the wolf.
Oh, the wolf,
And
that's right.
as fairy godmother like calls the wolf some gender confused wolf.
Yeah, it's great.
He endured scorching deserts. He climbed to the roof of the highest bloody tower.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so like Prince Charming like finds the wolf. He asks like, "Oh, like where is she?" And the wolf answers, she's on her honeymoon." Honeymoon? With whom?
Yeah. And that's how the movie starts. That is a pretty great opening.
I love how Charming says like honeymoon with whom? Like his voice cracks and he's all confused, like, where's Fiona? Where's my future bride?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. It's good stuff. A point I do want to bring. Yeah.
So like you've seen The Princess Bride, right? Like,
yeah, I've only seen it once, but I have seen it.
Like he reminds me of Chris of what's his fucking name? You know who I'm talking about, right? Long haired dude. Like that's who Prince Charming is.
That's who he. Yeah, to me, he's always looked like Jamie Lannister from Game of Thrones.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah. except he probably doesn't fuck his sister on the record.
Well, not that we
know. It's Chris Sarandon. Chris Sarandon is his name.
Okay.
Prince Humperdinck. That's who he is. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, and then it's the scene where like and then you get to like the honeymoon sequence where like Shrek and Fiona like spend a lot of time together. You have like a couple of movie references, like the Spider-Man kiss, the From Here to Eternity kissing sequence and all that. So
yeah, absolutely.
It has great movie references. That's what I also love about Shrek 2. Like
also this one like manages to squeeze in like you get the whole the action sequence with Fiona and those merry men, and they sort of incorporate things from like the Matrix in there, which is like sort of really funny.
What I was gonna say, like
yeah. That's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But...
I've watched The Matrix, and I always think to myself, where did I see this movie before?
Yeah.
Watch like, and you're like, oh my god.
Oh my god, that's right.
So basically, the guys who made Shrek are big Wachowski heads. Like,
yeah, let's go. This is what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. A point I want to bring up is that has there been any word on like a fifth one?
So like 4 years ago, I would say they announced that like this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Like Universal announced that they would like be making another Shrek movie, but I'm not sure if that's ever gonna like happen, since that like The Last Wish like does like does have a subtle hint that another Shrek movie might happen. So
yeah.
So I don't So I'm not sure really, you know, like, but like even if when like another Shrek movie comes out, that just means that DreamWorks is gonna like pump out more like, excuse me, like that just means that like DreamWorks is gonna pump out more Shrek movies, and and they're gonna keep like milking the franchise, and it's gonna like lose all the charm. So like
Yeah,
so
oh yeah, no,
it's kind of
yeah.
concerning to me.
Yeah, no, 100%. I kind of agree with me more with like that's what I mean when asking you. Like, I'm shocked they haven't sort of, because that just seems like money in the bank for DreamWorks. Like, because it's so that's another point to bring up. It's so odd to me that Shrek is still so popular.
It is like even after like 20 years when Shrek 2 like came out like had a re-release like recently.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So
Mhm.
yeah, the whole Shrek, the Shrek and the Shrek sphere has always been completely bizarre to me. Even though there are genuinely stuff um I do still quite like in this movie. And as we briefly touched on the second movie too.
Yeah,
Which I like, I guess if I ever, cover two on the podcast, I'm gonna bring you back on,
yeah.
talk some Shrek
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, definitely. I would love to like talk. Yeah, yeah. I would love to like shoot the shit on Shrek 2 more with you. Definitely. Yeah.
Absolutely. But with that, probably pivoting towards final thoughts on Shrek. So Santi, final thoughts on the 2001 film Shrek.
Shrek is love. Shrek is life.
He really is. He really is the lovable
Yeah,
ogre.
of course, of course. Yes. Yeah. I mean, like, what else can I say? Like this is an animated classic for a reason. You know, like it's like even after 20 years, like it's still funny. The jokes like the jokes always land and even as you said that the animation doesn't look the best. I think it's really good for its time, and and of course it has a great soundtrack, and of course like memorable funny scenes like when like when like like when Gingy gets captured, eh, and like Farquaad basically like is like racist towards him, like run as fast as you can. You
Right.
can be a gingerbread man. It's not. And he goes like, "Oh, I'm not the monster here. You are. Tell me, where are the others?" Like
Yes.
that, like that type of shit. And you also have him like picking like the obvious choice out of like all three princesses to pick Fiona, because again, Fiona's the co-star of Shrek, you know, and it
Hmm.
and it like reminds you of that,
Hmm.
and like and also like it's quotable. This is one of the most quotable movies ever. When like I'm telling you, when I watch the first Shrek, I know every line of dialogue that's being said. I know, and I know what the next scene is, and then the next one, and then the next one. It's
Hmm.
it's ingrained in my brain. You
Hmm.
know.
Oh no, that's it. But little behind the scenes side note before we started the podcast, Sandy to me was like, I didn't even need to watch Shrek. I know this movie like the
No,
fucking
no,
back of
no.
my
I
hand.
didn't. I didn't need to.
Didn't need to. He already knows it. He knows it. I love it. I love it. He just went. He's like, nah, not gonna waste my time. I already know what happens. Let's just do it. It's so good. No, but you're totally right. I love like sort of that whole aspect of when Farquaad is choosing the three wives that he wants to pick, and sort of putting that like sort of brutishly realistic spin on it. Like he's talking about the mentally ill shut in when he's talking about who is he talking about there? He's talking about all these famous princesses, but giving them like a harsh reality spin, like Snow White and the
Oh
Seven
yeah.
Dwarves, and he's like living with seven
There
other men, but
they
she's not
are.
easy, and all that sort of stuff's really funny.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And of course, like the mirror makes a comeback by satirizing something in Shrek 2, which okay, I'm gonna say this on your podcast right now. I
Okay.
think the Shrek 2 bit with the Knights reality show is the best joke in cinematic history, considering the fact that like OJ Simpson recently passed away, and and literally during that bit, they said, "We got a white Bronco like running through the forest."
Is there an
Like
OJ Simpson joke in Shrek 2?
Yeah.
I do not remember this.
Really?
That's so good.
Oh man, like it's such a funny joke.
That's
Like
hilarious.
so basically Shrek Donkey opposed to like being pursued by a fairy godmother, and like they're being chased by knights, right?
Oh, because
So
Donkey's a
like
horse. That makes
the
sense.
knights pin Donkey down, and he screams, "Police brutality! Police brutality!"
Right.
Which applies, police violence against like minorities, and you have the knights like planting drug evidence on Puss, which
Yeah.
implies that, and he's voiced by a Spanish actor and all that. Like
Yeah.
I love shit like that.
A lot of really
and how
funny
they make
hidden
fun of
stuff in
that.
that. That's really clever, actually, that you've sort of deconstructed that a bit. That's so funny.
I have to talk to Princess Fiona. Shrek, I'm her husband. Shrek, ow, ow.
Oh, so good. But yeah, that's probably gonna do it from us on the 2001 film Shrek. Now, Santi, this is our job. We have to pair the third man from 1949
I
with
have been
Shrek from
wondering about
2001.
this since you told me the pairing. Like,
Well, I thought these would pair together because both movies sort of contribute our characters in an odyssey where they're sort of drip fed information from third parties that don't end up being completely true. That between sort of, the many sort of suspects in the third man and Lord Farquaad giving Shrek false information. I think both our lead heroes are completely flawed, like almost like bumbling fools, very unexpected sort of heroes by the end. But yeah, that was my main point where I thought I'd connect the two, is sort of both movies both have like odysseys between our two main characters and fed misinformation the entire time. That whether be, as we mentioned, like there's no need to explain it in the third man because we just that's the whole movie. But with Shrek, the lies between Farquaad, getting his swamp back, and then of course between the relationship with Fiona, where she, the truth gets revealed there and who she actually is at the end.
oh wow, I never really knew that before. Wow, you just blew my mind there. Wow.
So maybe these two aren't completely alienated in pairing with each other. They're actually kind of similar. I'll say kind of, not completely, but
Yeah, kind of similar.
kind of similar in that aspect. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But with that, I want to thank you so much, man, Santi, for coming back on. This is it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Take a bow, my friend. That's it. That's what it's all about.
I took a bow. I'm just so glad to be here.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. I've had a lot of fun talking these two movies, but this is usually the time I give my guests anything they want to plug. So you have quite a lot on your plate. You've got socials, you've got the pod, obviously. So go for it, man. The stage is yours.
Okay, yeah, sure. You can listen to Santi Time on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can follow my Instagram, and it's Santi Loves Movies. I don't really like do posts on there. I just only like post stories like movie memes, movie news, movie trailers. Like I throw in like a movie scene or two or whatever. And like you can follow my Twitter. That's Straw Hat Santi, which implies that I am a One Piece fan, and my letterbox is also Straw Hat Santi. I recently hit 2,113 followers, which is pretty amazing for me. It's a major milestone, like a 2K followers was a milestone that I wanted to hit this year. So glad I did that.
Well done.
As far as Santi Time wise, I recently did a recording session on Revenge of the Sith that's going to be uploaded tomorrow morning, and by what I mean is like by the time of this recording, it's going to be uploaded tomorrow.
May 4th, of course, that makes sense.
I'm trying to do I'm also trying to do a DreamWorks ranking off the ground, and I'm also going to be talking about Challengers soon because I recently watched
cool.
Challengers. It's so amazing. Have you watched it yet?
Oh, I love Challengers. Yeah, Challengers is great.
Challengers rules, man.
Yeah.
I don't have the strength to put it over Dune 2 because like Dune 2 was like an out-of-body experience. Like that was probably one of the best IMAX experiences of my life. Like
Yeah, well, definitely Zendaya's on top this year. She's leading them.
I know, like she's a movie star at this point, dude. Like,
100%.
and yeah, I think that's it. I'm gonna be doing like a lot more Santi Time content, like this summer as much as I can, because well, like not much in June because like I'm gonna be away in Spain with my parents because it's gonna be their 25th wedding anniversary. We're gonna do like a whole party. It's gonna be awesome.
Exciting.
And yeah, that's
Nice,
about
man.
it. Thanks,
So
man.
anyone listening, yeah, keep them out. Yeah, you got to listen out for them because Santi's always dropping content and material. Yeah, and like genuinely just a great follow on Instagram too because you are legitimately like the main source where I get all my movie news from.
Oh, thanks, man. Thank you.
he's always posting. I love it. Always got the newest film and movie news on his Instagram. It's great. But with that.
We've been getting a lot of like great movie news, like new Pano, like like new Panos Cosmatos movie, new Giulio Decorna movie. Like I
Yeah.
am so ready to be
We're gonna be
fed.
stacked.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm trying to be normal about this. Okay, like I'm trying.
Yeah.
I don't.
No, I love it. I love it so much. No, but that's gonna do it from us. Thank you as always for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye, guys.